Guys, we can't.
Horror movies love to play a cruel little game with us. For a while, everything feels almost normal. The characters are talking, exploring, maybe even joking around. And then suddenly, something appears that completely shatters that sense of safety. Not a loud jump scare, not a quick shadow in the background, but a moment where the true villain finally reveals itself. And you realize things are about to get much, much worse. Some of these introductions last only a few seconds, yet they stay in our heads for years. A creature stepping out of the darkness, a monster showing its true form, or a villain appearing in a way so disturbing that the entire tone of the movie instantly changes. Today, we're diving into some of the most terrifying first appearances of horror's most unforgettable villains. And trust me, a few of these reveals are still nightmare fuel. 20. Monstro Elisu, the substance. Sometimes horror doesn't arrive with a roar. It creeps in through transformation. And in the substance, that transformation becomes one of the most disturbing reveals in recent horror. Throughout the story, the promise of becoming a better version of yourself sounds almost magical. Younger, more beautiful, more perfect. But the film slowly turns that dream into something deeply unsettling. By the time Elizabeth and Sue finally merge together, the result is far from perfection. What emerges instead is a grotesque mass of flesh, a distorted creature where body parts seem to slide and twist in unnatural ways. Teeth appear where they shouldn't, limbs look misplaced, and the entire form feels unstable, almost melting in front of your eyes. It's shocking, chaotic, and incredibly hard to look away from. The reveal doesn't just scare you, it leaves you deeply uncomfortable. And once you've seen it, it's almost impossible to forget. 19. Sam, Trick or Treat. At first glance, Sam almost looks adorable. A small figure in a tiny orange outfit, carrying a sack like a child out on Halloween night. But Trick or Treat wastes no time proving that appearances can be very misleading. Beneath that innocent costume hides something far more sinister. When the grumpy Mr. Krieg decides to remove Sam's burlap mask, the moment instantly becomes unforgettable. Instead of a child's face, we see something horrifying. A twisted head that looks like a combination of skull and carved pumpkin. The glowing eyes and jagged features make it clear that this is no ordinary trick-or-treater. What makes the reveal so effective is how sudden it is. One moment you think he's just a creepy mascot of Halloween, and the next, you realize he might actually be the living spirit of the holiday itself. And if you don't respect Halloween traditions, Sam is more than ready to punish you for it. 18. Kthoga, the Relic. Few horror movies make something as harmless as a museum feel like a nightmare, but The Relic manages exactly that. For most of the film, strange things start happening inside Chicago's Field Museum. Bodies appear, shadows move in the dark halls, and something clearly isn't right. Eventually, the truth emerges in terrifying fashion. The creature responsible is known as the Kthoga, a massive reptilian monster that looks like a nightmarish mix of lizard, dinosaur, and ancient predator. With thick, scaly skin, enormous claws, and a mouth full of brutal teeth, it feels like something pulled straight from prehistoric nightmares. The reveal hits especially hard because the movie builds tension for so long before showing the creature clearly. When we finally see it in full, stalking the museum corridors, the fear suddenly feels very real. 17. Skull Bear, Annihilation. In Annihilation, the world inside the mysterious shimmer is already strange and unpredictable. Plants grow in impossible shapes, animals mutate into bizarre forms, and nothing follows the normal rules of nature. But nothing prepares you for the moment when the mutated bear finally appears. At first, it's only a shadow moving through the trees. The characters sense something watching them, something large and dangerous. And then the creature steps into the light, revealing a horrifying sight. Part of its face is missing, exposing a skull beneath the fur. Its teeth are long, jagged, and stained with blood. But the most chilling part isn't its appearance. It's the sound it makes. When the creature roars, it doesn't sound like a normal animal. 16. Motor, the Ritual. A simple hiking trip through the Swedish wilderness doesn't sound like the setup for pure terror. But the ritual quickly proves otherwise. A group of friends enters a dense forest while mourning the loss of a friend, hoping the journey might help them reconnect. Instead, they wander into something far older and darker. For most of the film, the creature stalking them remains hidden. Strange symbols appear in trees, eerie noises echo through the forest, and the sense of being watched never fades. That tension builds slowly until the monster finally reveals itself. The creature, known as Motor, looks like something straight out of ancient mythology. Its body resembles an elk, but its limbs twist into unnatural shapes, and its towering frame feels both animalistic and strangely human, almost impossible to fully understand. And when it finally steps out of the shadows, the forest no longer feels like a place of nature. It feels like the territory of a godlike predator. 15. The Crawlers. The Descent. Deep underground, the characters in The Descent already feel trapped inside a nightmare. The narrow caves are dark, suffocating, and impossible to navigate. But the real terror begins when they realize they're not alone down there. The first glimpse of the Crawlers happens almost suddenly. One of the explorers notices something behind her. A pale, thin creature standing silently in the darkness. Its skin looks almost translucent. Its eyes are adapted to the dark, and its movements are disturbingly animalistic. That first reveal completely changes the tone of the film. What started as a survival story instantly becomes a desperate fight to stay alive. 14. Pyramid Head. Silent Hill. Few horror villains look as intimidating as Pyramid Head. When he first appears in Silent Hill, the moment is built purely on tension. Before we even see him, we hear something disturbing. The heavy scraping sound of a massive blade dragging across the floor. Then he slowly emerges from the fog, towering, muscular, and wearing a massive metal pyramid-shaped helmet that hides his face completely. His silent presence alone feels threatening, but the enormous sword he drags behind him makes it even worse. He moves slowly, almost confidently, as if nothing can stop him. That calm, unstoppable presence is exactly what makes his introduction so terrifying. 13. The Infected. 28 days later. Infected. 28. When Jim wakes up alone in a deserted London hospital in 28 days later, the silence itself feels eerie. The streets are empty, buildings abandoned, and there's no sign of life anywhere. For a moment, it almost feels like the world has simply stopped. But that illusion shatters inside a dark church. As Jim calls out, a priest slowly rises from the shadows. At first, it seems like a survivor. Then the figure suddenly turns, revealing bloodshot eyes, twitching movements, and uncontrollable rage. Within seconds, the infected charge forward with terrifying speed. That first encounter makes one thing clear. This isn't a normal zombie outbreak. These creatures are faster, angrier, and far more dangerous. Number 12. The Mother, Barbarian. At first, the rental house in Barbarian doesn't seem dangerous, just a little off. A double booking leaves two strangers sharing the same place, and while they try to stay polite, the awkward tension is obvious. The hallways feel strange, the atmosphere is uneasy, and the basement gives off a seriously creepy vibe. Still, nothing seems truly threatening at first, but curiosity leads one of the characters deeper into the hidden tunnels beneath the house, and that's when everything changes. Out of the darkness suddenly appears the Mother, a tall, disturbing figure with pale skin, unnatural features, and a terrifying presence. The reveal happens so quickly, it's shocking. One moment there's silence. The next, brutal violence erupts. From that point on, the house no longer feels mysterious. It feels like a trap no one was meant to escape. 11. Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead. In the cult horror film Pumpkinhead, a grieving father seeks revenge after the tragic death of his son. Desperate for justice, he turns to a mysterious witch who promises to summon something powerful enough to punish those responsible. The ritual eventually gives birth to a terrifying creature known as Pumpkinhead. When the monster first appears, it looks almost otherworldly. Tall, skeletal, and incredibly menacing. Its elongated limbs and glowing eyes give it a presence that feels both supernatural and unstoppable. Designed by legendary effects artist Stan Winston, the creature immediately stands out as something unique, and once Pumpkinhead begins its hunt, it becomes clear that revenge has unleashed something far more dangerous than expected. Number 10. The Babadook. The Babadook. Some monsters don't jump out at you. They slowly crawl into your mind. That's exactly what makes the Babadook so terrifying. It all begins with a strange children's book that mysteriously appears on a shelf. Mr. Babadook. At first, it seems like just another bedtime story for Amelia to read to her son Sam. But the moment she opens it, the mood shifts instantly. The illustrations show a tall, shadowy figure with long, claw-like fingers, hollow eyes, and a wide, sinister grin hiding beneath a top hat. Each page becomes darker and more disturbing than the last. Even though it's only a drawing at first, the fear it creates feels very real, because the book makes one thing chillingly clear. Once you know about the Babadook, you can't get rid of him. 9. The Cloverfield Monster. Cloverfield. For most of Cloverfield, the monster stays hidden. The chaos in New York City unfolds through shaky camera footage as explosions rock the streets and buildings collapse around terrified civilians. Everyone knows something massive is attacking the city, but no one knows exactly what it looks like. The film cleverly builds suspense by only giving quick glimpses: a massive tail, a shadow between skyscrapers, distant roars echoing through the city. All of it fuels the mystery. Then finally, the creature appears in full view, towering over the city with elongated limbs, massive jaws, and a terrifying alien-like face. The Cloverfield monster is far bigger than anyone imagined. That moment of revelation turns confusion into pure panic. Number 8. The Werewolf, an American Werewolf in London. Transformation scenes in horror are often intense, but few are as unforgettable as the one in An American Werewolf in London. After being attacked by a mysterious creature, David begins to experience strange and painful changes in his body. At first, it's subtle: discomfort, confusion, and a growing sense that something is terribly wrong. But soon the transformation begins in horrifying detail. His bones stretch and crack, his limbs twist, and his entire body painfully reshapes itself. Unlike many werewolf scenes that happen quickly or off-screen, this one shows every brutal second. The screams, the cracking bones, and the unnatural movement make it almost unbearable to watch. By the time the transformation finishes, the monster has fully arrived. Number 7. The Gwemel, the Host. Sometimes the scariest monsters appear when no one expects them. In The Host, a peaceful day at a park along Seoul's Han River suddenly turns into absolute chaos. Families are relaxing, children are playing, and everything feels completely normal. Then people notice something strange hanging beneath a bridge. At first, it looks like some kind of large fish or animal struggling in the water, but seconds later, the creature suddenly drops down and begins attacking. The monster, known as the Gwemel, is a horrifying amphibious creature with long limbs. It runs across the park, grabbing people and devouring them in front of horrified crowds. The attack happens so suddenly that the entire scene becomes pure panic. Number 6. Brundlefly, the Fly. Few horror transformations are as disturbing as the one in The Fly. Scientist Seth Brundle begins the film as a brilliant but slightly eccentric researcher working on teleportation technology. But one small mistake changes everything. After accidentally merging his DNA with that of a fly, his body slowly begins to deteriorate in horrifying ways. At first, the changes seem minor: unusual strength, strange behavior, and subtle physical differences. But as time passes, the transformation becomes impossible to ignore. By the time Brundle reaches his final form, the result is shocking. His human body has completely fused with insect-like features, creating the grotesque creature known as Brundlefly. The sticky skin, distorted limbs, and monstrous appearance make the reveal deeply unsettling. Number 5. Pennywise, It. Some horror introductions are unforgettable simply because of how innocent they are. Then the illusion shatters. His smile stretches wider, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth, and his eyes glow with something predatory. In seconds, the friendly clown becomes a nightmare. That moment doesn't just introduce a villain, it introduces one of horror's most iconic monsters. 4. The Thing. The Thing. In the frozen isolation of Antarctica, the scientists in The Thing already feel cut off from the rest of the world. But what truly terrifies them isn't the cold. It's the unknown organism hiding among them. The creature has the ability to imitate any living being it infects, making it impossible to know who is still human. One of the most shocking reveals happens during a desperate attempt to revive a team member. As the group tries to save him, his chest suddenly splits open in a grotesque transformation. Instead of organs, a monstrous mouth appears, snapping violently at anyone nearby. Then the horror escalates even further. His body begins to mutate into something spider-like and alien. The scene is chaotic, disturbing, and completely unexpected, a moment that perfectly shows how unpredictable the creature truly is. 3. The shark, Jaws. Before Jaws, people already knew what sharks looked like, yet Steven Spielberg managed to turn one into one of the most terrifying movie monsters ever created. For most of the film, the shark remains hidden beneath the ocean's surface. The audience only hears the iconic music and sees the destruction it leaves behind. This clever decision builds suspense for nearly the entire movie. Every splash in the water suddenly feels dangerous. Then comes the famous moment. Police Chief Brody is casually tossing bait into the ocean, focused on his task. Without warning, the enormous great white suddenly rises from the water right behind him. The reveal is so sudden that it instantly shocks both Brody and the audience. His stunned reaction says it all. They're going to need a much bigger boat. Number 2. Pazuzu, The Exorcist. The Exorcist is often considered one of the scariest films ever made, and much of that fear comes from the presence of the demon Pazuzu. Unlike many horror villains who appear clearly on screen, Pazuzu is introduced in a much more unsettling way. Instead of a full reveal, the demon appears only in quick flashes throughout the film. A pale face with hollow eyes suddenly appears on screen for just a fraction of a second before disappearing again. These brief glimpses are easy to miss, yet they create an overwhelming sense of dread. Because the audience never fully sees the demon, the imagination fills in the gaps. That uncertainty makes Pazuzu even more terrifying. Every strange event in the story feels connected to this unseen presence, reminding viewers that something ancient and evil is always watching. Number 1. The Chestburster Alien, Alien. Few scenes in cinema history are as shocking as the chestburster moment in Alien. At first, everything seems calm aboard the spaceship Nostromo. The crew is gathered around the table, sharing a meal and joking with each other after surviving a mysterious encounter on an alien planet. One crew member, Kane, appears to have recovered from the strange creature that attacked him earlier. But suddenly, he begins to choke and collapse onto the table. The crew rushes to help, completely unaware of what's about to happen. Then, in one horrifying instant, something violently bursts through Kane's chest. A small alien creature emerges, covered in blood, screeching before escaping into the ship. The scene is chaotic, shocking, and unforgettable, a moment that forever changed the way audiences experience horror. Before you leave, if moments like these still give you chills, make sure to like the video and share it with a fellow horror fan. And if you love exploring the darkest and most unforgettable moments in movies, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next terrifying countdown.